Please, Huey.
I got
I love Daddy. My pencil. You want to get down to bed?
Welcome to the MasterMind Library. They call me Ferdinand, the bringer of balance, leader of many disciplines, and one of your hosts of the MasterMind Library. I'm here today with Trigger.
T, Huey, Dodger, and Huey, Didi, and Huey, 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 and Huey.
Thank you for introducing our live audience.
And Dodger, and Didi, and Mommy. You see the daddy and daddy. No, daddies.
Yes.
Daddies used to hold that by a berry. It's all for fun and a free about it.
So today we are on episode 124.
Daddy and daddy and daddy. And daddy sees you episode. Daddy episode daddy and episode you hold it to you.
All right. Yeah. So we're on episode 124
Episode
today.
you do episode 200. Episode 200.
And we're on chapter 6. Booker T. Washington's story of his life and work. Yeah. So we're gonna be listening to chapter 6 today. I'm gonna be reading.
Daddy.
And very soon one day you're gonna be scrolling, and one day you're gonna be doing this too.
Daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Daddy.
Yes. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move to chapter 6 in our book, and we're gonna get everything set up for our live audience at home. Yeah.
Sorry. And the and your fire to you.
All right, so are you ready, Trey? Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and do some listening. Chapter 6, the first year at Tuskegee. After the school had been in session in the old church and little shanty for several months, I began to see the necessity of having a permanent location for the institution, where we could have the students not only in their classrooms, but get hold of them in their home life. No, go sit down and focus on what you need to focus on. You turn your body this way.
Yes.
All right. After the school had been in session in the old church and little shanty for several months, I began to see the necessity of having a permanent location for the institution, where we could have the students not only in their classrooms, but get hold of them in their home life and teach them how to take care of their bodies in the matter of bathing, care of the teeth, and in general cleanliness. We also felt that we must not only teach the students how to prepare their food, but how to serve and eat it properly. So long as we only had the students a few hours in the classroom during the day, we could give attention to none of these important matters, which our students had not had an opportunity of learning before leaving their homes. Few of the students who came during the first year were able to remain during the 9-month session for lack of money. So we felt the necessity of having industries where the students could pay a part of their board in cash. It was rather noticeable that, notwithstanding the poverty of most of the students who came to us in the earlier months of the institution, most of them had the idea of getting an education in order that they might find some method of living without manual labor. That is, they had the feeling that to work with the hands was not conducive to being of the highest type of lady or gentleman. This feeling we wanted to change as fast as possible by teaching students the dignity, beauty, and civilizing power of intelligent labor. After a few months had passed by, I wrote General J.F.B. Marshall, at that time treasurer of the Hampton Institute, and put our condition before him, telling him that there was an abandoned farm about a mile from the town of Tuskegee in the market which I could secure at a very cheap price for our institution. As I had absolutely no money with which to make the first payment on the farm, I summoned the courage to ask General Marshall to lend me $500 with which to make the first payment. To my surprise, a letter came back in a few days enclosing a check for $500. A contract was made for the purchase of the farm, which at that time consisted of 100 acres. Subsequent purchases and gifts of adjacent lands have increased the number of acres at this place to 700. And this is the present site of the Tuskegee Institute. This has again been enlarged from time to time by purchases and gifts of land not adjacent until at present. The school owns farmlands to the number of 2,460 acres. After the school had been in session 3 months, Miss Olivia A. Davidson, a graduate of the Hampton Institute and later a graduate of the Framingham, Massachusetts Normal School, was employed as an assistant teacher. Miss Davidson was teaching among her people near Memphis, Tennessee in 1879 when the yellow fever drove her away. She went to Hampton, entered the senior class, and graduated the following spring. She did not go to Hampton, however, until her application to return to Memphis to help nurse the yellow fever patients had been refused by the authorities there. Through friends, she was able to enter the normal school at Framingham, Massachusetts, and graduated in the summer of 1881. And when an assistant at Tuskegee was called for, she accepted the work. Her enthusiasm had won the admiration of her schoolmates, and from them she received much assistance for the school at Tuskegee in after years. The success of the school, especially during the first half dozen years of its existence, was due more to Miss Davidson than anyone else. During the organization of the school and in all matters of discipline, she was the one to bring order out of every difficulty. When the last effort had apparently been exhausted, and it seemed that things must stop, she was the one to find a way out. Not only was this true at the school, but when a campaign for money had ended unsuccessfully, she would hie away north, and money was sure to be found. Our hardest struggle began after we had made the first payment on the farm. We not only had to secure the money within a few months with which to repay General Marshall's loan, but had to get the means to which to meet future payments, and also to erect a building on the farm. Miss Davidson went among the white and colored families in Tuskegee and told them our plans and needs. And there were few of either race who did not contribute either something in cash or something that could be turned into cash at the many festivals and fairs which were held for the purpose of raising money to help the school. In many cases, the white ladies in Tuskegee contributed chickens or cakes that were sold for the benefit of our new enterprise. I do not believe that there was a single Negro family or scarcely an individual in Tuskegee or its vicinity that did not contribute something in money or in kind to the school. These contributions were most gladly made and often at a great sacrifice. Perhaps I might as well say right here that one of the principal things which made it easy to start such a school as now exists near the town of Tuskegee was the fact that Tuskegee is inhabited by some of the most cultured and liberal white people to be found in any portion of the South. I have been into a good many Southern towns, but I think I have never seen one where the general average of culture and intelligence is so high as that of the people of Tuskegee. We have in this town and its surroundings a good example of the friendly relations that exist between the two races when both races are enlightened and educated. Not only are the white people above the average, but the same is true of the general intelligence and acquirements of the colored people. The leading colored citizen in Tuskegee is Mr. Lewis Adams, to whom the honor should largely be given for securing the location of the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute in the town. Mr. Adams is not only an intelligent and successful businessman, but is one who combines with his business enterprise rare common sense and discretion. In the most trying periods of the growth of the Tuskegee Institute, I have always found Mr. Adams a man on whom I could rely for the wisest advice. He enjoys the highest respect and confidence of the citizens of both races. And it is largely through his power and influence that the two races live together in harmony and peace in the town. After we had raised all the money we could in Tuskegee for the purpose of paying for the farm and putting up the new building, Miss Davidson went to Boston, where she had many friends and acquaintances. And after some months of hard work, she secured enough money with which to complete the payment on the farm and return General Marshall's loan. In addition, she secured means to complete the payment on our first building, Porter Hall. Our first building was named after Mr. H.A. Porter of Brooklyn, New York, who was instrumental in assisting us to secure the largest gifts for its erection. All the while the farm was being paid for, we were holding school daily in the old church and shanty. The latter, at least, was well ventilated. There was one thickness of boards above and around us, and this was full of large cracks. Part of the windows had no sashes and were closed with rough wooden shutters that opened upward by leather hinges. Other windows had sashes but little glass in them. Through all these openings, the hot sun or cold wind and rain came pouring in upon us. Many a time a storm would leave scarcely a dry spot in either of the two rooms into which the shanty was divided to make room for separate classes. These rooms were small, but into them large classes of 30 or 40 had to be crowded for recitations. More than once, I remember that when Miss Davidson and I were hearing recitations and the rain would begin pouring down, one of the larger pupils would very kindly cease his lessons and come and hold an umbrella over us so that we could hear the recitations. I also remember that at our boarding place on several occasions, when it rained while we were eating our meals, our good landlady would kindly get an umbrella and hold it over us while we were eating. During the summer of 1882, at the end of our first year's work, I was married to Miss Fanny N. Smith of Malden, West Virginia, and we began housekeeping in Tuskegee early in the fall. This made a home for our teachers, who had now been increased to 4 in number. She was also a graduate of the Hampton Institute. After earnest and constant work in the interests of the school, together with her housekeeping duties, she passed away in May 1884. One child, Portia M. Washington, was born during our marriage. From the first, she most earnestly devoted her thought and time to the work of the school, and was completely one with me in every interest and ambition. She passed away, however, before she had an opportunity of seeing what the school was designed to be. The following account of her death is taken from the Alumni Journal, published at the time at Hampton. The numerous friends of Mr. B. T. Washington will be pained to learn of the death of his beloved wife, Mrs. Fanny Smith Washington, class of '82, which occurred at Tuskegee, Alabama, Sunday, May 4th. Her death is indeed a serious bereavement to Mr. Washington, whose acquaintance and regard for the deceased has begun in their childhood. Their happy union had done much to lighten the arduous duties devolving upon him in the management of his school. To his friends, he had several times expressed the great comfort his family life was to him. We know that all our readers will join us in extending to him the warmest sympathy in this sad hour. A bright little girl, not a year old, is left to sustain with her father a loss which she can never know. And that concludes chapter 6. On our next episode, we'll be going into chapter 7, the struggles and success of the workers at Tuskegee from 1882 to 1884. Powerful material, y'all. Be blessed and expose your gift.